Welcome to Playoff Week. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers. Adam Emmert is back with us this week, and we have a full show coming out tomorrow, Blue Friday, to help you pass the time until Saturday night's playoff game against the Dallas Cowboys. In the meantime, Adam is joining me as we bring on Bryan McLaughlin, host of the Common Ground Football Podcast. We had Andrew, the Cowboys fan, on earlier this year to preview the Dallas game. But rather than bring him back, I wanted to talk to Bryan, the Seahawks fan. Bryan, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing well, man. We're going to the playoffs. The regular season's over. I can't believe it's gone by this fast.
It went by way too fast.
Way too fast. But we finished 10-6. How did that match up with your prediction going into the season, Bryan?
I was a little off. I wasn't one of the fans that thought, oh, well, they'll get 5 wins. They'll get 6 maybe. I thought that they would be better than everyone was predicting they would be. I did not think that this would be a playoff year. I thought they would build some really good things going into 2019, and that was going to be the big look, we're back year. So pleasantly surprised is kind of where I'm at, and always happy to see our team in the playoffs for sure.
Well, Bryan, I wanted to congratulate you because for the Common Ground Football Podcast, this is your guys' first full season, and yes, you get rewarded with a game where both your teams face off in an elimination game in the playoffs. How's that feel?
It's a dream come true for our podcast. I hope that after it's over, obviously one of the teams has to win, and I'm a little scared if the losing guy if he quits next week
and the podcast is over.
Yeah, if we go to a solo show, I'm not sure what happens, but no, we've been joking about it for the last few weeks as we started noticing that it was a high probability that was going to be the matchup if the Seahawks could get their playoff spot locked down. And as soon as we started seeing that was going to be probably the matchup, we've been egging each other on a little bit and having a lot of fun with, hey, whoever we paid off to write a script for this season, we owe them a little bit of a bonus because it worked out exactly how we would want it.
Well, being in the situation you are of talking to a Cowboys fan every week, how are you feeling going into this game? Besides the nervousness about the future of your show, but I mean, just I'm thinking more of the outcome of the actual game.
Well, to me, it all depends on what team shows up. Are we going to get the team that looked amazing versus Kansas City? I got to see that game in person, and it was easily the best win of the season, and they finally figured out how to out-duel one of these high-powered offenses. Or are we going to get the team that went down to San Francisco and looked like garbage? So I'm nervous about that because we've now seen, even in Arizona, they didn't look great. So absolutely, we have Russell Wilson, we have Pete Carroll, we have people that have been here before, and Dallas. I mean, their offense outside of Ezekiel Elliott, I mean, really, Dak doesn't scare me at all. Their play calling doesn't scare me at all. I feel like they have a Darrell Bevel situation happening there, and I would say nervous but confident. If you can be confident nervous, if that's possible.
It's funny, Bryan. I'd say that my level of confidence on this game, if there was a gauge, it would be all the way to the top, broken the gauge, and gone all the way through the roof. I have no doubt in my mind that we're beating the Dallas Cowboys this weekend. I mean, I look at this matchup, and it couldn't be a better matchup for the Seahawks. You're looking at this Dallas defense, which went into New Orleans, had a whale of a game, and then ever since has been a shell of itself. Vander Esch looked to got hurt this last week. I don't think they have any confidence on that side of the ball. Amari Cooper has been fading as the season has gone on with his production within that Dallas offense. And like you said, Dak doesn't scare me at all. He's good for 2 stupid turnovers a game in a big moment. I mean, he that's just what he does. And then Zeke, the first time that we played him, sure, when you look at it at the end of the day, the yards were huge, but those were all piled up and basically towards the end of the game when the Seahawks more or less had it sewed up. I'm not afraid of this team in any way, shape, or form. And as long as the Seahawks can run the football on an opponent, they'll win the game. And there's not one defense in the league that has been able to stop it. And I don't see Dallas as being the first one to do that. And the Seahawks have been great on the road. I think the advantage of Russell Wilson at quarterback is enormous. And I think even more so than that, the advantage of Pete Carroll over the Clapper is just gigantic. I mean, this guy, I don't trust Jason Garrett in a big spot for a minute. And I can't wait for this game. This was the perfect first-round matchup, I think, for us. We're going to win this game. The Eagles are going to beat the Bears. And then we're going to take on the big bad Rams and show them who's boss again. And I'm licking my chops.
Anyone who listens to our show knows that I try not to be. It's not that I want to be negative about everything. I certainly don't. But the nervousness is that I just don't want to be overly confident and then have to eat my words later. However, I share your enthusiasm and your confidence. I just don't push it out like that. There's definitely things about Dallas that do make me a little nervous. I mean, the defense itself has been their strength this season. If there's one thing I do worry about, it's that a little bit. But you're right. If they can run the ball, nobody can stop them. And I've been a little bit hard on Schottenheimer's play calling this season and the underutilizing of Russell. But really, when you look down, and I've spent the last several days just looking at stats and looking at everything else, and I'm not the biggest Russell Wilson lover. I love what he's done for our team, but I will be a critic of him, no problem whatsoever. However, when you look at the stats, I can't say anything. I basically have to take back everything negative I ever said about the guy this season and go, well, you know what? His numbers show that when they are using him, he is doing everything that they are asking him to do and more. And if he does that in this game, I don't care how good Dallas's defense is, they're going to kill him. And you're right. This is the best matchup we could have asked for. I've been saying it for 2 weeks. If you want a game where you can get a win and get that holy momentum that everyone wants, this is it.
Well, what is it about the Dallas matchup that has you concerned then? Is there a particular matchup on the defensive side of the ball for the Cowboys that worries you, or is it on the offensive side?
On the defensive side of the ball with the Cowboys, I know you mentioned that Van Der Esch hasn't been healthy and he's kind of dropped off a little bit, but I'd tell you what, if he's feeling better to where he has most of the season, he'd be the one guy I'd be concerned about, because unfortunately, as much as I can't stand the Cowboys, I've had to watch a lot of their football this year. And the one thing I do notice every single game I watch is how Van Der Esch is he's unbelievable. He's a fantastic rookie. And he's all over the field, and it literally feels like he is in on every single tackle. And we joke all the time about how many tackles he has in the games. If he had 150 that game or 350, it's because he seems like he's everywhere. But again, that comes down to the offensive line. Are we going to see the offensive line that we've seen most of the season? Hopefully, with Fluker getting back in there, we will not see a repeat of what we just saw in Arizona, because that had me having horrible flashbacks to 2017.
Well, I think the team that you're going to see out on the field is a team that's about the same level as the Dallas Cowboys, but maybe 3 to 4 game-changing plays better, because that's exactly who this Seattle Seahawks team is. They're going to play the Rams or the Chiefs. They don't play up or down, or they don't play down to their opponents. They play to the level of their opponents. Like they really do. They get up and down for certain games. And here you come into the playoffs. I mean, this is a huge opportunity. This is what they've been fighting for. And I think you'll see a team that I think we beat the Cowboys for sure, but I'm not predicting a blowout by any stretch of the imagination. I think like this is a 7-point win, a 3-point win, something like that. But I just trust Russell Wilson to make the big play down the stretch and Dak to make the big mistake.
Yeah, well, when you have 11 one-score games throughout the season, it feels exactly like that. You just now expect that it's going to be a one-score game and it's going to be tight, unless there's a situation where, I mean, the Seahawks blowout wins have come when teams have turned the ball over quite a bit and the teams capitalized off of them. If that's what happens, great. Then I think we will see a blowout. But how have the Cowboys been at taking care of the football this year? It seems like they've been pretty good. I
feel like like you said, Dak is good for a couple of turnovers a game. And he really is. Whether he fumbles the ball, which is supposed to be an Achilles heel for him, he has an issue. If he moves, for a quarterback, he doesn't hold on to the ball very well. The thing is the Seahawks defense is a bend and don't break defense. It's not, we can get frustrated all we want, and I certainly do when they, give up yards, because they continuously give up yards in the middle of the field. They get down on the other side and they will stop them, or they will hold them to a field goal. And that's been their whole philosophy, bend, don't break. And on the turnover side of the ball, that's been the big success this season overall, which has been my favorite thing to see. Because if you think back to the Super Bowl years, the biggest thing that they did was their turnover ratio. They forced turnovers. And then if you look at the years where they didn't in the last couple, they were not good in that department, and look where it got them. And then this year, Pete Carroll's huge on it, and they're back to being a turnover force, and it's made them successful. And that's that. If they can get 2 in this game, it's over.
So in terms of the Cowboys, what matchup do you like the Seahawks? Like, where do you see our strengths going up against their weaknesses? I know we talked about Vander Esch, being, outstanding in the middle of their defense. I think there are some guys to be concerned about among the front four, and then they have some guys on the back end too. But as well rounded as the defense seems, I don't know. The fact that they gave up 35 points to the Giants is surprising to me.
Yeah, to the 5-win Giants,
right?
Yeah, I think that the Seahawks just need to focus on their defensive side of the ball, so the Seahawks defense, because the offensive line of the Cowboys in the past years has been one of their strengths and seems to be definitely one of the weaknesses this year. Zeke is just a really good runner, and he makes plays happen. That's not saying the offensive line is terrible, but they're definitely not the strength that they've been in the last several years, especially since, if you go back 2 years ago to, Ezekiel Elliott's first season, their offensive line was the offensive line that everybody wanted in the league. It was nuts. And now it's with injuries and just they're not playing to the same level that they're used to playing. I want to see Frank go nuts. I want to see Reed get in there and go nuts. Bobby playing at the level that he's playing at this season, the best linebacker in the league right now. I want to see those guys basically exploit that offensive line and get in there and cause havoc on Dak. Elliott's going to get some runs. That's just going to happen. It's just the way it works. However, you get in there and you put pressure on Dak, and that's where you're going to get him to make his mistakes. And like we said, he's going to make mistakes, and that's going to be the difference in this game.
Well, Bryan, really want to thank you for coming on the show to preview a little bit of the game. Before you go, I want to hear, how did the Common Ground Football podcast start? Why Seahawks and Cowboys? How did this all come to be?
Well, Andrew and I and his wife, we've been good friends for many years, and his football knowledge is by far above and beyond mine. But I had a little bit of a start in radio way back in my college days, and always regretted not doing sports radio. And I got a local connection here in Wenatchee, Washington, and went on the radio a couple of times with our local sports guy here, and just did a couple of guest appearances. And Andrew came to me, and he's a podcast guy, and he was like, you know what? You hate the Cowboys, right? I said, you bet your ass I hate the Cowboys.
Don't we all?
Don't we all? And he's like, well, that's good, because I can't stand the Seahawks or their fans. And it's if we did a show that took those two. You have two fan bases that aren't well liked, because let's face it, Seattle, as fans, obviously we like our group, but since, the Richard Sherman years and those Super Bowls, people kind of took around the nation, kind of started disliking us a little bit. We call ourselves the 12s. We have that whole thing. I said, why not take those two and do a podcast, and we'll make it about those two teams, but also about football in general. And I wanted to get into sports talk radio anyway. I was like, well, podcast is close. Let's do it. And it's actually been funny, because I still hate the Cowboys. Let's not, get that wrong.
Right.
Still hate them with a passion. However, I have a bigger appreciation, more than the fact that we've kind of found a lot of similarities between the two teams and where they're heading and what they're doing in many different ways. And then, like I said, this season couldn't be any more perfect when it comes to us and how it's all worked out. So it's been a blast.
Well, we did enjoy talking to Andrew. He did mention on the show that he is one of the cool Cowboys fans. Now, I didn't say that about him. He made sure to tell me that he was one of the cool fans.
He likes to make sure that people understand that he actually, as a Cowboys fan, doesn't like Cowboy fans. 90% of them he can't stand, which is all right. Which is funny. Yeah, it's funny to me. But I think that's the same as Seahawk fans. We kind of get a little bugged by the fans that came on board post 2012, the ones that haven't been around since I mean, obviously, Seahawks have been around longer than alive, but I've been a fan longer than 2012. But the fans have just kind of jumped on the bandwagon. We get bugged by that, and he just gets bugged by, I guess, 90% of his fan base. So it's always hilarious.
I think the big part of that just comes with the territory of, as Seahawks fans, we kind of identify, especially long-term Seahawks fans, you identify with so many painful years. And so that's what made the good years so great. And so I think maybe it's just a little bit of annoyance that, hey, these people are coming on board and they haven't had to live through the pain like we have.
Oh, yeah, they didn't have to go to the Kingdom and watch. They think that the games were always full and loud and amazing. And I've seen some great games in the Kingdom, but I've also been to several games in the Kingdom when they were terrible, and that place was empty. And you try and imagine Seahawks games empty, and it doesn't compute right now. But I remember them, and it just wasn't as fun. But we got through those times to get to where we are now. And then Dallas is one of those teams that likes to sit there and talk about all the championships they won, decades ago.
Right. Well, Bryan, if people want to find your show, where's the best place to catch it, on the web or on Twitter?
You can follow us. We're on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then the podcast is available anywhere you listen to podcasts, including iTunes, Spotify, and then always at commongroundfootballpodcast.com.
Appreciate you coming on the show, Bryan.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me. Really do.
All right. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.